It's Monday, February the 8th, and I'm a year older than the last time I saw you. We are in the Ascent Psalms, and these are Psalms from 120 to 134, 15 Psalms collated together. They weren't all written at the same time. Possibly there's 1,000 years between the first of them and the last of them. At least one of them is after the exile, which would date it around about 400 BC, and at least one of them refers back to the time of Moses and the wilderness, and so we're talking at least 800 years, and possibly more. And how they were brought together as a collection of psalms, we don't really know, to be sure. All of them have now the title. Whether they originally had these titles is another area of historical research. But all of them bear the title Psalm of Ascent or Song of Ascent. And in the King James, I think the word degrees is used. And it certainly fits the narrative that these are pilgrim psalms from the time of the exile, when generations after the exile actually never returned to Israel and might have lived hundreds and possibly 1,000 miles away from Jerusalem, but would make pilgrimages to Jerusalem, particularly in the fall, for Yom Kippur and so on, Passover. And as they made their journey, others would join this caravan of pilgrims making their way to Jerusalem, and these psalms would be perhaps sung from memory. They all of them depict life as a journey and as a pilgrimage, in good times, in bad times, and so on. And today we are in Psalm 125. And it begins in verse 1, "Those who trust in the Lord are like Mount Zion, which cannot be moved, but abides forever." And of course, as a tourist going to Jerusalem, you can depict Mount Zion, a rocky mountain on which the old city of Jerusalem sits. But for the psalmist, Mount Zion was not just a geographical item, but it was also a spiritual and theological item. It was the place where God was present. And so right out of the gate, this psalm is talking about the immovability of God's people. They are as solid and firm and immovable as Mount Zion, where Jerusalem and the temple and God himself is to be found. Or changing the metaphor, as the mountains surround Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds his people from this time forth and forevermore. Psalm begins by telling you to remind yourself of the sovereignty and power, the covenant-keeping nature of our God. But then in verse 3, right at the center of this very short 5-verse psalm, it all changes. And the psalmist refers to the scepter of wickedness. Now, what that is, I have no idea. And it could be anything. It could be enemies of David. It could be forces of spiritual darkness. It could be family trouble. It could be a whole host of things, disease, and so on. We name your problem, and it'll fit this psalm. So, what is the psalm saying? Remember the sovereignty of God. Trouble is present, and then in the second half of the psalm, do good. It turns into a prayer. Do good, O Lord, to those who are good and to those who are upright in their hearts. This isn't a prayer from self-righteousness. Who are the good? Who are the upright in heart? Those who trust in the Lord. And that faith is reckoned to them as righteousness. And so this is a prayer. Remember the sovereignty. There's trouble. Remember the sovereignty of God. Turn it to the Lord in prayer. That's Psalm 125. Have a wonderful day.
We hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, and you want to make sure you get all of our content, not just videos, but podcasts and ministry updates, make sure you download our app. If you think you might have missed a video, click on our YouTube channel. A link should be down below. There you can see all of our videos, and if you want to make sure you don't miss anything in the future, hit subscribe. If you want to be one of the first ones to know when we release a video, hit that little bell icon. And if this video has blessed you, and you can think of someone else that it might help, use that share icon and send it to them. All, of course, for the edification of God's people and the glory of His name. Until next time, God bless.